suddenly events that began happening all around me, one after the other, clear signs that there was something trying to pull me back from that edge.
First week after he died, I walked out into my backyard. I was very upset. I was really missing him, and I had put on a ring that I had actually bought from India for him for some gym therapy when we were doing alternative treatments. And he was so sweet. He always would, whatever I asked him to do, you know, I'm waving sage over it, and, you know, at 7 in the morning, you got to put it on this finger at this time, and blah, and he'd be like, whatever. And he would do it. So I had one of those rings, and I was outside in the backyard, and I said, Michael, like that. I was talking to him, and I went, Michael, and the ring flew off my hand, and it was dusk. And it was an emerald ring. It was, you know, so it was green, and it just disappeared. And I was like, oh no, I've lost that ring. And an acorn hit me on the head and fell, and I watched where it fell, and it fell right next to the ring.
My mother, who was having a very difficult time with his leaving, had taken his ring, his wedding ring, and put it behind her wedding set. She had an engagement ring and a wedding ring, and she had taken those off, and she'd put his wedding ring behind it. And she was dressing in his jogging suits and having a very difficult time letting go. And I was visiting with her one day and had gone specifically to explain to her the importance of letting go. And as it turned out, I didn't have to explain it at all. I was sitting there on the couch with her, and we're talking, we're facing each other as you and I are facing each other, and she suddenly, her left hand flies up over her head, and we were both kind of stunned because we were in the middle of a conversation, and that wasn't part of it. And so she says, well, now that was very strange. It was like I didn't have control of my arm. And we looked down, or she looked down, and her rings were gone, all of them. She had a little heating pad sitting on the back of the couch, just laying across the back of the couch. And on top of the heating pad, stacked perfectly, one on top of the other, was the engagement ring and the wedding ring. But Dad's ring was nowhere to be found. And we searched and we searched and we searched. And I said to her, Mom, we're not going to find it. And I said, because you've been blessed with a beautiful message from Dad, and he gave you the message that I came to give you, and that is you got to let him go. It's time. He's fine. He needs to move on, and so do you.
A young lady that came here was devastated by the death of her father. He automatically came through, and I said they usually have their own way of validating who they are. And all he said was, I love you, Peaches, I still love you. And she broke down and cried because he was the only one that called her Peaches.
So I go to this funky little trailer, and I sit down on a sofa with Reverend Ruth sitting across from me. And she said, there is someone standing over your shoulder. And he says to tell you this was his choice. It was his time. It's okay. And you have nothing to do with the choice he made. As I sat there, not wanting to believe her, I said, why was this his choice? She said, if you believe that all of us have many lives, many forms, many spirits, we experience things. We experience them differently. And sometimes we are given choices to make. And those choices may be right ones, they may be wrong ones. But when they're made, we move on. And we continue to move on. This was Burns' choice, and this was the right time for him to make that choice. But it's not the right time for you. How does she know that this is a choice in front of me? She says, Sandy, you need to make another choice. Now, there are other stories that in telling them must sound bizarre to anyone. But at that moment, I let go. At that moment, I let go of this burden that had been holding me to death.